I think that there are far too many organizations, they talk aspirationally, but they talk about it as if they're already doing it. And I think really connecting with people is about two things. It is about cutting through the noise and being unique, but it's also about building trust while you do that. Yeah. So when we go think, say, do, it's so aspirational that if somebody goes, okay, I'm going to connect with you right today. And then you go, oh, don't look at the website. We're working on the website. And sorry about that. We're still working on the process. And well, we're going to get there someday. Well, then now I'm like, well, that's lunch bag letdown. This is like, well, I was promised one thing and the actual experience is very different. So I also think the hierarchy of it should be, this is what we believe. This is what we do to reinforce that belief. And then the say is, what do you talk about? Well, you talk about what you fundamentally believe and what you do to reinforce it. That is what you say. You say it in a unique and compelling and interesting and relevant and entertaining way, but that's really the heart of it. So I think say should always come last.
Well, look, I want to jump straight into this new piece of work that you have. I'm absolutely loving it. I was joking around with a little bit off air. I chose to consume it via audiobook. And for anyone who hasn't read your book or experienced your book yet, I recommend not only buying a physical copy, but also getting the audio copy as well. Because guys, there is some really, really cool stinking sound effects and music and stuff. It's not that boring, like you're on like a long trip kind of thing and driving for hours on end, about halfway to fall asleep. This book's actually going to teach you something and keep you awake. So kudos to that. But one of the things that I absolutely
listened to a book. Sorry, I just listened to a book that I hadn't read. And I was really looking forward to reading. I was like, oh, listen to it. And they go like, oh, they got the actor to read the. I'm like, oh. And then it's just like, there's just something about a professional voiceover, right? Where they all do it the exact same when it's professional and polished. And like, as you said, it's like,
but then you're half asleep. You're like, I've got this to learn something and now I'm tired.
yeah, exactly.
Well, thank God your work is not like that. I don't think even engaging with you, reading it, none of that stuff. You're obviously an upbeat human being who loves to add a little humor and everything. But one of the things that I absolutely loved, was I know you said you didn't coin the phrase, but I do love the phrase altogether, which is this idea of being pitch slapped. Like, let's talk about being pitch slapped, because I think in today's marketplace and whatnot, it doesn't matter if it's LinkedIn or wherever, you're getting beat senseless with people just throwing stuff at you. Like, break that down for me a little bit.
So pitch slapping is the art, or lack thereof. I think prioritizing a sales pitch over everything else. You know, we're all here. I mean, this isn't recreational writing, right? Like this isn't recreational podcast. Like, there is a fundamental business reason why we all do all of this stuff, why we're consuming content, creating content. So I get that. This isn't rec business. But when your sales pitch proceeds and is a higher priority than everything else, then you're inundating the person with a promotional message, opposed to adding value first and then eventually earning the right to maybe bring up that promotional message when you fully understand that there is a need for what you're selling and that you can customize that proposal, verbal proposal or written proposal, to that person's specific situation. And often now, and I don't remember who said it, it wasn't me, but this idea of the digital marketing wasn't ever supposed to be about scale. It was always supposed to be about customization. As a guy who grew up as a creative director in a traditional international holdco agency, when we were pumping out, a ton of TV spots, all the digital folks who were emerging kept saying, oh, just you wait, TV guy, just you wait until the individual consumer will only see the very ad that they want for the thing they want in that precise moment on the precise medium that they're, choosing to consume in that moment. And, it was going to be completely customized to them. And that was seemingly refreshing. And what happened?
It became 24/7.
I can send 4 million emails just as easy as I can send one pitch slap. And we just went to scale. And we completely lost it on that. And we failed to deliver the true potential of digital marketing. And now we're all just trying to game the system and cheat the system to achieve some sales goal. And it's exhausting. And here's the most important part. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. all it's done is create more and more and more and more noise.
Yeah.
And, I think about it too, as someone who's actually, I kind of in your camp. I want to put out valuable content that people actually want and need and can use. And I, at least for me, I find myself competing against all the other noise, all the other people that are just trying to sell something here, buy this widget, buy this thing. And, great if that widget or that thing helps that one person, but you're blasting the other 1,000 at the same time. So
I call those the other 1,000. I call them the innocent bystanders.
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly.
I just got pitch slapped. I was just standing here.
Yeah, I remember I went to go. I was searching for a house one time for a family friend that was considering moving to my marketplace. And for the next 6 months, I saw nothing but housing ads every time I was on Google or Safari or whatever. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And even when I hit the little button that says opt out, like, close out ad or stop advertising to me, it says, why? Why do you not want to see this anymore? I was like, because it's not relevant, dude. Like, give me a break. But I don't know.
I'm getting stalked by banner ads for homes for sale in my neighborhood.
Oh, man. It's so aggravating. And then I love the fact that you have no idea how happy you made me when you decided to talk about the LinkedIn stalking and all the craziness. We got to break that down, because I was very, as you were describing like the different levels of the different call it LinkedIn marketing system. And I love LinkedIn as a platform. Like, it's a great platform.
Totally.
It's great for that. But I have like, I don't know, countless people that are quote following me on LinkedIn. All of them, if not most of them, have tried to sell me something almost without even knowing my name.
Yep.
Which is mind-boggling. So let's talk about the LinkedIn strategy, or the LinkedIn type of things that you mentioned in the book, along with and how it's creating additional noise and additional distrust.
Well, there's and again, LinkedIn is about business relationships, and we know that business relationships can lead to business transactions. Yeah, of course, 100%. But again, people are trying to take the shortcut. They're trying to game the system, and they're trying to pitch slap and prioritize their sales pitch over everything else. And so there's different ways that people can do that. And it's almost like the first 5 words of either the connection request or a LinkedIn message, you're like, block sender, or unconnect or disconnect or whatever it is. And there's the like, I was perusing, like,
I stumbled across your platform.
I stumbled across. Really, you stumbled across me. Well, that seems.
I really
very
like what you're doing. Sometimes I just say, well, what am I doing?
The number of people who reach out to me and say, we can help you. We're an agency that helps businesses get new leads. I'm like, I'm an agency. Like Church and State is an agency. Our biggest clients are Google and Walmart. I think we know how to get leads. We just, we prefer to do it in a way that is consistent with the tone and personality of the brand. Yeah. And my gut reaction to all of them is, if you're supposedly the expert at new business, and you're the expert at generating qualified leads for a business, and this is how you do it, I think it just lost my trust. Because I actually don't think, if somebody came to me and said, I actually have a profound way to deliver the clients you actually want in a way that's consistent with your brand, I would listen. Of course I would. We all want new clients. Yeah. But if that's your approach, that tells me right away, you have no idea what you're doing.
Oh, gosh. Well, look, so I know you kind of broke down. So what I wanted to do was maybe even break down a couple of the different LinkedIn tactics. And we're using LinkedIn as a concept of different ways that people try to kind of quote unquote mingle their way into your business. I'm sure the techniques that you mentioned in the book will work just as well with any kind of B2B correspondent. But let's talk about some of the sneak attacks.
Sure. Well, it might be helpful. Do you want me to walk into how I use it? Because we all know the pitch slapping. Do you want me to know how I kind of use it? Because I generate stuff for my agency with Church and State, as well as speaking. I do 70 keynotes a year. So I'm on the road a lot. Yeah. So there's a way, I think, to fully embrace the reality of adding value, providing content, and getting smarter, yada, yada, yada. So this fundamental way to do it is progressive and brand consistent and get you the goals that you want over the long haul. Yeah. Like the people who, if you're looking to generate 5 new leads today, Well, then send out your million emails, and maybe a 0.0005% of people are going to, click on it. I don't know, but that's not a game I'm playing. I'm playing the long game.
Yeah, for sure.
So I worked with a guy named Todd Lohendry out of Wisconsin, and Todd's a really lovely guy who's really kind of gets the idea of tools and platforms that we can use to become more efficient. And he had something called the 4 C's that I've adopted and adapted for how I use it. So the first C is consumption. So one, we need to consume media in a really operationally efficient way.
Yeah.
We need to get smarter. We need to read stuff and listen to stuff. So how do you do that? So one, I use Feedly. I use an RSS reader. I follow a whack of magazines and bloggers and blah, blah, blah. And I can just operationally and efficiently read the content that makes the most sense for me, that is in my sweet spot of understanding and expertise. So that's the consumption. The second C is curation, which is if I read this thing, look, I'm just in the middle of reading Joey Coleman's great new book.
Nice.
Never Lose an Employee. Again, just came out. It's fantastic. But let's say I read an article by Joey and I go, this is really important. My followers or my community, whatever you want to call them, they should read this. They should read this piece. Then you curate that out to them. Here's a great article. And I don't just go resend or repost or whatever it is or reshare. I editorialize it. I go, I think this article is important because of 1, 2, 3, or I disagree with this, whatever. I'm adding value to the thing. But Joey might be a competitor of mine. It's not about that. It's about delivering that content. So I curate that, one, to my audience. Secondly, I curate it for myself. I create a slide in that moment. If I was to deliver this content in that moment, what would I deliver? What would the slide be? I design the slide right then. I put my notes in the speaker notes. I put the reference to the article in there as well. I slide that over into a bucket. Maybe it's, internal employees or employee experience.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly building the next speech with all this stuff. Do the same thing into Scrivener, which is where I write the books. So I'm always writing the next book. I'm always writing the next speech. So that's the second C, curation. Third C, creation. At some point, you got to create your own stuff. You got to go, here's what I think. Here's a funny thing I said, or here's whatever. And then the fourth C, which is most important. This is where LinkedIn is so great. The fourth C is connection. Now, if I post the thing about Joey Coleman's book, Never Lose an Employee Again, and somebody goes, not in CPG, it doesn't work that way. Well, I do one of two things. Either double down and go, nope, worked with CPG clients. In my experience, this is relevant. Or I go, oh my gosh, you just made me smarter. I didn't think of that. And now I go back and amend my notes. And the next time I go to do a speech, if I'm in CPG, and I go, I know what you're saying. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, not here, not in CPG. So the reason I really think where LinkedIn can help us all is it forces us, if we're going to create content, it forces us to think about things. It forces us to editorialize things. It forces us to read things because we're now under pressure to share it out. But we're there to interact with everybody who are there to make us smarter.
Yeah.
And that to me is the real power of it. And over time, people we just won a massive national campaign of somebody who said, and I said, why did you put us on the RFP? And she said, I saw you speak once and I follow you on LinkedIn and I love your perspective and the tone in which you interact with people.
Yeah. It's
a $1 million campaign.
Yeah. That's awesome. And you did it authentically. That's the big thing. It's not an inauthentic exchange. It's an authentic connection. And I think that's where a lot of folks are getting a lot of things really wrong. It's one of the things I found really refreshing about your book. I don't know if this was intentional or not, so I'm gonna ask about it because obviously I think it's kind of cool. Think, say, do. All right. So I would have thought it would have been think, do, say. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I thought I would have gotten it backwards. Right. Yeah. So I'm curious to know why say is at the end and not in the middle.
It's a great question. The day the book launched, I did a TV interview, national TV interview. And the interviewer is like, it was literally launch day. And they said, and please welcome the author of the book, Think, Say, Do, Ron. And I'm like, dude, it's day one. You're wrong.
Well, good to know I'm not the only one that screwed it up.
100%. It happens all the time. I think that there are far too many organizations who talk about the thing, they talk aspirationally.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about it as if they're already doing it. And, I think really connecting with people is about two things. It is about cutting through the noise and being unique, but it's also about building trust while you do that. Because anybody can cut through. Anybody can cut. You just go naked. Show a picture of yourself naked. We see people who do these really outrageous.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said start your own flash mob.
There's easy ways to cut through the noise and get coverage. Of course, you can do that. Mm-hmm. But if you don't build trust and people go like, oh, this is unique, and I would trust doing business with this person, then it's useless. Yeah. So when we go think, say, do, it's so aspirational that if somebody goes, okay, I'm going to connect with you right today. And then you go, oh, don't look at the website. We're working on the website. And sorry about that. We're still working on the process. And well, we're going to get there someday. Well, then now I'm like, well, that's lunch bag letdown. This is like, well, I was promised one thing and the actual experience is very different. So I think and then I also think, the hierarchy of it should be, this is what we believe. Mm-hmm. This is what we do to reinforce that belief. And then the say is, what do you talk about? Well, you talk about what you fundamentally believe and what you do to reinforce it. Mm-hmm. That is what you say. Mm-hmm. Now, you say it in a unique and compelling and interesting and relevant and entertaining way, but that's really the heart of it. So I think say should always come last.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. Well, I thought it was such an interesting spin too. One of the things that I love about, I guess the succinctness of the book is this, it's not even aspiration. It's the truth behind living by real beliefs. Like, being a brand that truly believes exactly who not only who they are, who they're called to serve, and then and what methodology they're going to serve. So walk me through a little bit about the, how people kind of vote now with their time versus their wallet.
Yeah. There used to be about back when it was just kind of, three distinct channels. There was print and magazine and out of home and TV, and that was in maybe radio. We used to vote with our wallets because we got ads and we responded by buying stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, now there's, it's relentless in terms of not only the number of promotional messages that people are forced to see across a wide variety of different areas and spectrums, but I think the thing that people don't talk about is they always talk about whatever the quote is, which is probably a lame, completely wrong data point now, but like 5,000 advertising messages a day. Yeah. It's not I don't think it's as much about that as it is the rapid increase in the number of SKUs. Mm-hmm. That it's not just we're forced to see. There's 25 different types of toothpaste. Mm-hmm. There's now 400 different types of Cheerios. Mm-hmm. And each of those need their own kind of promotional message. So yeah, it's messaging, but it's also SKUs and products that are completely customized. So we're just completely inundated. So in order to first win the customer's attention, in order to deliver the message that is really important when we talk in product features and whether it's caloric benefit in food or whether it's, miles per hour, in cars or whatever it is. Yeah. Well, everybody's talking about that stuff. Mm-hmm. Everybody is talking about speeds and feeds. All those rational arguments. Like, are you kidding me? If I see one more, mobile ad that says I get so many minutes for free with a day, what? Yeah. Cars that say a lease payment of 500 ASMR or whatever those terms. Like, I don't even know what this is. It all sounds the same. Mm-hmm. It all sounds the same. And so those things are useless in trying to win that first battle for time. So when I say we vote with we used to vote with our wallets, now we vote with our time, is that I'm willing to give time to listen to something that is entertaining enough, relevant enough to me, informative, important enough. Sometimes that's an ad. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's pure play content. It's a streamed show. Yeah. Often it's stuff that's kind of in that gray area. Mm-hmm. Is it an ad? Yeah. If I'm a big baseball fan, if I'm watching a baseball game and they talk to me about, tuning into the All-Star game, is that just content that they're providing to me, add value as a baseball fan? Or are they driving me into another channel so that I can consume more content? For sure, yeah. Right. So they're advertising just as much as they're providing content. So, and if it gets too pitch slappy, then I go, nah, I'm out. The metaphor to think about for people is, when you go to watch YouTube, right? And Google's the client, full disclosure. And you go to watch YouTube and there's a pre-roll ad, and then there's the countdown box in the corner.
And you're waiting for the countdown box to get where you can hit the button skip. Yeah.
You're hovering over it, right? You're hovering over it.
I pay for premium just so I don't have to watch any of that stuff.
Yeah, totally. Same here.
So they sold me a different way.
Better than totally. I'm with you 100%. I pay premium. But most people, they're hovering over it. Like, can I skip now? Can I skip now? Can I skip now? Can I skip now? They don't even give it a second to see. They're just like, when can I skip it? I think metaphorically, the skip ad button appears before every single piece of content we consume. It's like, can I skip this now? You're in a party, a lame conversation with an accountant.
It almost becomes a game.
About EBITDA. What's that?
It almost becomes a game to click the button.
How do I get the hell out? How do I get out of this conversation? How do I skip? So we just need to win that initial battle for time if we ever want to get the share of wallet. Yeah.
Well, it makes me think about something that's, and I know you've been a huge resource for Microsoft and how they reconverted their marketing and kind of what they're doing now. But, I believe that one of the reasons that Apple was able to gain some ground for a number of years was because of what they believed. I got this Steve Jobs thing on my wall back here. Here's this fits and and I feel like that, right?
Yeah.
But Microsoft, when I was buying Microsoft computers as opposed to Macs, then was very much like, here's this 17-inch monitor with this CPU of this and this RAM of this. I have no idea what a RAM is. I just does it hold my pictures and my music, kind of thing. Yeah. And to that end, I think that's a key strategy. Now that obviously you're implementing everywhere you go and all the folks you work with, but I'm curious to know, I know you work with a lot of big brands, right? And you've been very successful at it. You've been very successful at helping them communicate their beliefs and their values in a much more succinct and clear way, which obviously helps us as a consumer because it kind of helps us separate the noise, which is fantastic. But when we're talking to the everyday entrepreneur who's maybe hasn't busted the 8-figure ceiling yet or 7-figure ceiling just yet, and they're trying to decipher where do I market? It sounds like you're saying before you decide where you market, you need to decide how you market. But I'm curious to know what's the difference between what they would do versus one of these big brands would do to cut through the noise.
Yeah, I think it's easier for them. I think for metaphorically that businesses kind of, if we think of like Times Square, right? Like on the top part of Times Square, those big, really expensive billboards, and you got to they're really expensive. You got to be there. Now, the reality, though, for the big brands of the world who can afford to be up top, they're actually further removed from the reality of the street. And because it's so expensive to place a billboard, well, there's more eyeballs on it. And because there's more eyeballs on it, it becomes lowest common denominator of messaging. Because there's more eyeballs on it, they like round the edges a little bit. Everything, and they want it to sound perfect. It becomes a little bit too polished, and they completely lose their authenticity. So they can do things at scale. They have budgets that smaller organizations can't. But what can smaller organizations do that they can't? They can be way more targeted. They can be way more authentic. They can control the activation of those beliefs because they got a team of 6 people. Yeah, it's so much easier. Whereas, if you go into big multinational brand, they got thousands of employees who are all expect like every single day, every single one of those employees is going to live up to that purpose. No, someone's going rogue.
Elon learned that the hard way.
Yes, right. Yeah, exactly. And we've seen this with entrepreneurs who come into great power and they go, "What?" When you see when an entrepreneur goes into public office, not naming any names, but they get. But it's happened on both sides of the border, but they get really frustrated because they don't understand that big enterprise and big government works in a completely different way. And they can't just make a decision and implement it. There's too many people. Yeah. So those smaller organizations. So I think one of the things that they can do, follow the thing to say. So one, walk away from mission and vision and North Star and BHAG. People have got 25 different terms. And because I think that's what they're supposed to do. They took an MBA or they did a minute MBA course and they go, I got to establish my vision, my values, my purpose, my value, my value prop. They go through every single thing. They've got a book on it. And then you go, what does it mean? And they go, I don't know.
See, I think that's the interesting piece, because I don't think the exercise is bad as long as it actually is taking you somewhere. And I don't know about you, but I've been through 1,000 different offices before. Core values are on the wall, and it's very clear the entire company is not operating on the core values, which tells me that the leadership team is not functioning on the core values, or preaching or teaching or educating or empowering or any number of things. So I totally get what you're saying there for 100%.
Yeah. You know what typically happens in that is, and I've been in the room a million times, is somebody at senior leadership goes to a resort on a lake north of the city that they operate in, right?
Yeah.
They go up, they're like, we're going to this Happy Valley place. And they go in the boardroom, they huddle around a flip chart, and someone goes, all right, we need values. And someone's like, I hear accountability is good.
I like my family. That's okay.
Yeah, right? They go, oh yeah, we're a family. Okay. Oh, we're going to write that down, right? And they write it on the flip chart. And then they go, okay, we got performance, accountability, creativity. And they go, oh man, if only we had an E, we could spell pace.
Energy.
And yes, right? And they go, that's it. Energy. Yeah. Oh yeah. Great, Mary. Now we got pace, and they get a marathoner to set the pace. They write the posters. We set the pace. You're like, all that stuff.
It's all fake.
It's all completely fake.
Yeah.
The reality is, you're right to what you said earlier. It's not that you don't go through the exercise, but if in terms of values, I should not read your values. I should experience your values.
Exactly.
And I experience your values through the actions and behaviors of you and your people.
Yeah.
And so if I'm a smaller, entrepreneur, owner, operator, I know that it's easier for me to have people live those values. So I have a fundamental brand belief. I believe in something. This is why we're in business, or do Simon Sinek fans, the why you do what you do. Okay. And by the way, that is strategically linked to what you sell.
Yeah.
It's not like, what's the latest cause? We believe in saving the planet. What? It's human rights now. We believe in saving human rights. You're just picking causes. You're just cherry picking causes.
And you're selling lipstick.
Yeah. That's not purpose. Purpose is strategically linked to what you sell. So we create this line that is very simple, takes all that stuff, and is, we believe that, or we believe this. Yeah. So we do this by doing this.
Yeah.
It's that simple. 3 bubbles. We believe this. So we do this by doing this. Now you've got that. That's all you need. Now you go, okay, we understand what we fundamentally think. We understand what we fundamentally do. Now then we just literally start to go through it. Okay, what do we say? We say, this is what we believe and this is what we do. Okay, where do we say it? Or who do we say it to? Well, we say it to the person who's our key target. Okay, what do we know about them? Like, where are they looking for research, and where are they spending their time? Okay, well, that's where we should probably say it. How should we say it? Well, what kind of tonality is authentic with our brand and our personality, and in a way that really connects with them and differentiates us in the category? That's how we say it. When should we say it? There's your content calendar. There's your media plan. It's really that simple. And then kill it and bill it. Get it done. Get it out the door. Yeah. And, people are so afraid to take risks now that they're like, oh, what if this fails? You know what? In this market, if it fails, it probably means because nobody saw it.
Yeah. Very true.
Sounds like a pretty good time to fail.
Yeah, I was also thinking too that another pivot off of that, if you can ultimately clarify your core beliefs and values, and they're real and they're authentic, if you're really trying to build that into your organization, into your marketing, everything else, it also needs to become the lens that you hire people through. Like when you sit down with them, you're like, this is what we believe. This is what we stand for. This is how we're actually bringing it to market. And I think that's different than, hey, we have this vision, this mission statement, this set of core values are all on the wall. I hope you like it. You kind of tap it on the way in as you're sitting them down and, that kind of thing, which I think is a huge, huge difference. In fact, one of the things that you said in the book that I love, and I'm going to read this exactly: believe in something, even if it matters sacrificing everything. I absolutely love that, because I don't feel like a lot of people, going back to that fear thing, will do what's so authentic that they'll turn business away, not realizing that they turn business away, it will get them more business.
Yeah, that was the line from the Nike Colin Kaepernick ad, right? It was like, believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything. And that in business terms, it's kind of like, I think it's the old I think it was Bill Bernbach. Bill Bernbach, who said a principle's only a principle when it costs you money. That it's really easy to say, we believe in this.
Hey, I talk in fortune cookie. I can't throw so much shade.
Yeah. But when you're challenged, you're like, this is what we really do believe this, and we're going to take a hit for it. Then now, and this is the reason why I think Quiet Quit or the Great Resignation kind of started at the beginning of the pandemic was there were so many organizations who had paraded out these values and beliefs, and then when push came to shove, they clearly didn't believe in them.
Yeah.
And people walked.
Yeah, that's very true. It's interesting. The your book does a phenomenal job of laying out all the concepts we're talking about in order, in a strategic way in which somebody could actually take your book and then implement it in their business pretty quickly. But one of the things I wanted to kind of do is you have this concept. You say customers don't want you to be reactive; they want you to be proactive. And I think that's a huge principle from what I'm seeing in the marketplace, specifically in regards to building trust and authenticity. Can you give me some examples of maybe some of the clients that you work with, and maybe you don't have to give the names of the clients per se, that maybe were doing it wrong, that you helped them position it correctly?
Yeah, there's if you think of a metaphor to think about, there is in any professional sport, the referee, if you see the referee, if you notice the referee, if the referee gets attention, it's probably because you're not doing a great job.
Yeah.
And so the best referee or umpire in any sport is the one you don't even think about. They just quietly go about, and all the focus is on the players. You don't think about them. It's not about them. They just do their job in the best way possible. And there are so many organizations who make it about the customer experience or make it about the customer service, where I'm responding to a complaint and this is how we go about it, right? And they make that the thing that they want to be famous for. When the reality is, like, you should have solved that problem in the first place. Yeah, it's kind of, it's creating this is I think the difference between customer experience and customer service. Customer service is often reactive in a way that, like, we will respond to your complaints in a timely and efficient way. Customer experience means that they never actually complain about it because it just works. And so being really proactive means that you're building systems so that it just works for people. It's seamless. It's exactly how they want it. It does everything it's supposed to do. And, it's really efficient for them. In so many different products we consume, and we've worked on this with a number of clients, where you go through that customer journey and you find out that when the consumer buys the product, they create what we call a workaround, right? They're like, well, I need the product to do this, but I just do this thing, right? I just copy and paste it from here to here, and I do it this way, and I got my own little workaround, and it works. Yeah. And the consumer might think they're smart, and you may not even notice it because they're not complaining about it because they figured out how to do it, until another brand comes along and they don't need the workaround anymore. That often all these great innovations are things that have just identified what the workaround was. Yeah. And they've eliminated it. They've just solved that problem. And it's a way better experience. I think the best example right now is there's a baseball team called the Savannah Bananas. Have you heard of the Savannah Bananas?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. This is an amazing case study. Jesse Cole's the owner, bought this team in Savannah, Georgia, does a name contest. What are we going to name this? A whole bunch of people submit. Someone says the Bananas, Savannah Bananas, which is a great handle, right?
I love it. Yeah.
So he just starts to go through the customer experience, the customer journey. What do people hate about baseball teams and going to see baseball? And he just identifies the workaround or the problem, solves it. They hate a stadium filled with ads. He goes, no more ads. They go, food's too expensive. He goes, you know what? One price, one ticket, all you can eat food. There's no food prices, just all you can eat. Everything, right?
Yeah.
And then he realizes something really important. And think of this in terms of category.
Mm-hmm.
So within category, there are ways and rules that all businesses in that category operate. Within baseball, there's a rule. If you hit a foul ball into the stands, you get to strike until you hit strike 2, and you just keep hitting foul balls. What he decided was baseball can be boring for people. We're going to make it more interesting. If you hit a foul ball into the stands and a fan catches it, you're out. Now that is cool. Impossible in baseball, because the rest of the category is going, no, that's not the rules that we play by. So he said, fine, I'm leaving the category. I'm leaving the league. I'm going to write my own rules for something, and I'm going to only exist as one team that will play other teams, and just completely change the rules. You can't bunt for the Savannah Bennett. You cannot bunt.
Wow.
It's illegal. If you get walked, you actually have to run to first base, and you can keep running until they tag you out if you want. So he really realized, to really be exceptional, he had to leave the category because he didn't want to play by the same rules as everybody else. That, to me, absolutely brilliant. And by the way, you cannot get a ticket. Sold out.
I was going to ask you, how'd that work out? I mean, it sounds like a incredible concept to me. I remember one of the times I went to an NFL game one time, and because of the TV timeouts and the ads, it was like they'd pause for 5 minutes and they'd run another play, and then pause for their 5 minutes and run another play. And I'm like, I'm bored. Yeah. It's probably why I ended up watching hockey, because at least the puck's moving all the time on a consistent basis. So
yeah.
Well, before I get into a couple more questions, I'm curious, where can everybody get the book at as of right now? Because I'm enjoying it thoroughly myself. Like I said, I got a print copy now, as well as the audiobook. I personally like the audiobook just for fun, because there's a lot of fun stuff in it. But so where can everybody get it at?
Yeah, you can get it wherever you get your books. It's available, published through Page 2, and it's available everywhere, including the audio version. Cool. It's all available.
Yeah, I figured as much, but I always like to share and ask. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, thank you. There's so many different ways to buy and consume books now. That some people are just like, I'm doing audio only for this next one or whatever. There's just so many unique ways to do it.
Yeah, we've had a couple of a few folks on that were just they're super close to some tight book environments. National retailers are awesome. That's obviously they're a huge partner when we write books and stuff. But a smaller bookstore in their hometown or something like that, it's like go pick one up from over here as well, kind of thing. So I always like to ask that question. But I
like to support the independents where possible.
Yeah, for sure. Well, all right. So one of my other questions is this, and I thought this is pretty profound. You said it's not as important kind of about what you do as much important about who you do it with. Mm-hmm. Where were you coming from in that concept? What kind of led you? Because I thought that was pretty profound.
Well, we often, it's like the customer. And yeah, sure, that's your source of revenue, and that's your focus of acquisition and loyalty. Sure, I get that. But the economy or the kind of business environment has shifted in a way that we're, on one hand, yes, there's convergence in many other ways of organizations. You're just massively acquiring organizations of the entire food chain and kind of doing it all under one umbrella. On the other hand, there's another kind of school of thought, which is like increased specialization, like we're only going to do the thing that we do, and then we're going to bring in partners. The reality is the end consumer pays for it all. Like they're funding everything. Yeah. They're funding everything. They buy that box of cereal. They're funding the ad agency that does that, the design shop, the media shop, they're funding everything. Yeah. It's just back-end accounting of who gets a share of that dollar or that $5 or whatever. Yeah. And the legal firm gets a certain percentage, and the ad agency gets a certain percentage, and the brand manager gets a certain percentage. It's all just back-end accounting. And the end consumer doesn't really care who does what and who's owned by who. There's a metaphor I'll use often, which is like, I don't know, when the Grateful Dead was around, I don't know who was an equity member. I don't know who got songwriting money. All I know is like every once in a while, Bruce Hornsby showed up and played piano.
Yeah.
There was just this collection of people that got together who were bound by a certain purpose and a series of values. And what do I care? I paid one ticket to go see them, and they're going to divvy up the money like however the hell they want. And so customers may come and go, but those partners who allow you to do the thing that you do on a regular basis, the partners who share your values, the partners who can sometimes deliver business back to you, who act on your behalf, that we have to treat those partners with the same care and respect, if not more, than the end customer, because those people are with us through the entire journey, through many of our relationships. The customer is really just the relationship of one. And we pride ourselves in that. Like most ad agencies, we have a bench strength of freelancers that we use on an ongoing basis that are kind of extensions of our team. And when we put them in the meeting, they act on our behalf and they share our values. We may not give them benefits like we do our full-time employees. We certainly invite them to our summer parties and certainly, get them in on certain fun things. They're part of the team.
Yeah. No, I love that. No, the reason I ask is because a lot of times that's, if the entrepreneurs aim in the wrong direction, they're only focused on revenue, growing revenue. They're not focused on community. They're not focused on team. They're not focused on their really what their beliefs are. I love it. You did several case studies throughout the book, which I absolutely love. And you kind of broke down Red Bull, which I kind of really appreciated it.
Yeah.
Kind of that kind of concept. Maybe with a few minutes that we got left, maybe walk me through one example of the process that maybe you would walk someone through in determining some of this. I know it's 30,000 foot level. Yep. And maybe even tell us, who your ideal client is, in case some of our audience is in your pipeline that would want to work with you.
Well, thanks. I think I'll give you a quick example. I'll answer the second question first. We have we have big enterprise clients who do a variety of different work for, Google, Walmart, Worth, Centennial College, which is the college close by, and a number of other great clients. We also work with a number of clients, many of whom are in the U.S., who come to us and they kind of get that like we're doing a lot of work with a private equity group who has this series of companies in their portfolio, and they've all gone through this we've just acquired 3 companies, and now we're going, now what? What does that mean to what we fundamentally believe? How do we bring all these people together? The say part, should we have the same name? How do we talk about it to the market? And what's the brand hierarchy and the architecture, of all these brands coming together? And so we do a lot of probably a third of our revenue is those short-term 6-month assignments where they go, can you just come in and help us figure this new brand story out?
Yeah.
And that's it's a kind of, $100,000 to $150,000 project kind of thing. And then, we're in, it's really strategic, and we kind of create all that stuff, and then we go, or we hang around and do more work for them. But that's where we do a lot of work these days.
When they do those types of projects, I'm just out of curiosity about what is the average lifespan of the brand work, knowing that the market and the economy and everything shifts, or does the brand always stay consistent because that's who the brand is?
Yeah, there is a pivot that we take where we're like, okay, given this new structure, because often, your smaller organizations are they start as an owner operator. Sometimes maybe their name is on it. We just finished one where the guy's name was on the door.
Yeah.
And it's I've acquired 4 other companies. It's got to be more than the name.
Yeah. And
so there's this really crucial point in time where it wasn't built for flexibility in the beginning. It was all to do with the person.
Yeah.
So when we come in, we recraft everything and we build it for flexibility so that other things can kind of, be added on in the future. So in terms of brand name and brand, logos and colors and palettes and stuff like that, they should last a very long time. Yeah. Maybe with some tweaks to update color palette or, slight style, but no, they should last 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah. I just want to bring that up because a lot of, I'm thinking about the earlier stage guys. They're 7 and 8 figures, right? They, in theory, if they really wanted to commit to the process that you guys do so well, you guys do a terrific job in the marketplace. If they go and invest $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 into a project like this, and if they think that they're gonna have to redo it every 10 years or 3 years or 5 years and stuff exactly. That's kind of what it's just once you super clarify who this brand is and what you guys stand for, stand against, and then how you're going to tell people what you stand for and stand against, your tribe is going to find you.
Yeah.
But at least for me in building my first business, it took me 10 years to figure that out. I did it on my own, which is why it took me so stinking long. And I wasted millions of dollars the first 10 years trying to stumble my way there. So from me to you, I encourage anyone who's in the kind of the matrix that you kind of just laid out to work with you guys, because you guys do a phenomenal job in the marketplace. You guys have a fantastic reputation.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And to answer that first question of and a quick example, this is the most recent one. We didn't do it, but it's universal enough that everybody knows it. Mm-hmm. So, and they certainly didn't use our language or specifically our process. I don't know how they went about it, but General Motors just went through a really big shift. Okay. Now, so let's look at why would General Motors want to revisit their brand? Okay, there's a couple of different reasons. One, they still got that stink from 2008, 2009 when they showed up begging for money on their own private jet, right? Yep. Okay, so they still got that going for them. The car market has fundamentally changed with the rise.
It's very different now.
Right? Yeah, so EVs are going through the roof, completely different. Ride sharing going through the roof. Way new, important, or fundamentally easier ways to rent cars. People are looking for completely different types of cars. Leasing arrangements are going through the roof. So the entire category of getting from point A to point B has fundamentally shifted. Okay, so the market has completely changed. So they go back and they revisit things. What do they fundamentally believe? They rewrite their purpose, and they don't go, our purpose is to move people from they don't go, our purpose is to
put people in cars.
Yeah, right. It's you have to believe in something that goes beyond your product to build in the flexibility.
Yeah.
So their line was, we stand together to drive the world forward. So it was about progress, and it was about their role in driving progress through what they do. Now, of course, it has to be linked to where they make their money, which is making cars. Yep. So they think, what do they think? They think that we should stand together to drive the world forward. Okay, great. What do they do to reinforce it? GM took a look at their entire ecosystem and said a couple of things. One, we're going to drive the world forward by increasing the product EVs in our product portfolio. They now have 14 EVs in their portfolio. Secondly, we're going to use our size and scale for good. Thirdly, we're going to create and increase the diversity of our team so that we guarantee that we get different perspectives in the car buying journey. We're going to create a customer experience for people that is not based in a model that was created in the 1950s. We're going to fundamentally redraft and recreate our customer experience. So they do all these things. Now, how do you talk about it? Well, one way was they could have changed the name, which they didn't. But remember that old logo? It was that caps G, caps
just
M.
The G and the M,
the underline underneath it with that blue that you can just smell the carburetor on. It's like, it just seems so old and so cocky.
Yeah.
And so what do? They completely refresh their ID. So they contemporize the blue. So it's a way more contemporary blue. They take the G and the M and they move them to the lowercase. So a lowercase G, a lowercase M. And if you look in the negative space of the M, it's an electric plug in there. So the way they talk about the brand from the logo representing this new profound way of thinking is completely consistent. Now we know what they believe. And then from a line, they don't go to the market with, we stand together to drive the world forward. That's a strategy line. That's internal language. What do they say? They say, everybody in. What? It's two words that completely describes everything they now stand for. Everybody in. I absolutely love it. And it's really early in their journey. I think they just did it last summer. Yeah. And maybe it's they're leading with the say.
Yeah.
But it's got my attention that I want to keep following it.
Yeah. I mean, as a side note, I think even Ford right now, their new CEO has been talking about either overhauling how the distributors' car lots are, or bringing those all in-house in order so they can control the customer journey and the experience, because I think they also became aware of in the car buying journey that people were scared to step on a lot because you're scared to have to haggle and negotiate and all that kind of stuff.
And you're right. I just did 4 engagements with 4 dealers nationally for groups of Ford dealers, for massive groups of Ford dealers. And you're right. They are fundamentally changing their guest experience. They're going to call it customer experience, a guest experience. And because it is that treatment. It's such a weird mental shift, right? It's like, if you go, the customer's walking in, then you're like, I'm going to pitch slap them. But when it's like, oh no, this is a guest who's coming in.
Yeah, it's like, do you want a bottle of water? Do you like it's you?
Yeah,
how you treat them at your house.
Yeah, so Ford is also doing it. Really respect what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely love it, dude. We're out of time, Ron. I have thoroughly enjoyed our time together. I encourage everybody to go learn more about what you're doing, the book, and all that good stuff. If there's any way we can be of service, please let us know.
Stephen, you're so good at what you do. Thank you,
man.
And what a great conversation. I've really enjoyed my time.
All right, take care. See you.
Okay, see you.
I hope you liked that video, and if you did, make sure you check out this next video right here.
The first place to start in terms of letting go and surrender is the willingness to tell the truth. Many times we stay stuck, we stay blocked, we stay cycling in patterns because we've been conditioned to lie to ourselves.